Welcome to History with Herodotus, where the boundaries of time and space converge and the tapestry of human experience unfolds before our very eyes. Today, we embark on a fascinating journey to the scorching deserts of North Africa to relive one of the most pivotal battles in the annals of history, the Battle of Zama, fought in the year 22 BC. This epic clash of titans, pitting the legendary Roman general Scipio Africanus against the formidable Carthaginian warlord Hannibal, would forever alter the trajectory of the ancient world. In the early 3rd century BC, the Mediterranean world was a cauldron of competing powers, with the Romans and Carthaginians vying for dominance. The First Punic War had ended in Roman victory, but the seeds of resentment and rivalry were sown, awaiting the spark that would ignite the next great conflict. In the city of Carthage, a young and ambitious general named Hannibal was rising to prominence. Born into a family of noble lineage, Hannibal was driven by an unyielding passion for revenge against the Romans, who had humiliated his father, Hamilcar Barca, in the preceding war. With unwavering determination, Hannibal set out to challenge Roman supremacy, crossing the Alps with his formidable army of elephants, infantry, and cavalry. As Hannibal's campaign unfolded, the Romans found themselves facing an unrelenting foe who seemed to defy the conventional rules of warfare. His victories at Cannae and Lake Trasimene sent shockwaves throughout the Roman Republic, prompting a drastic reevaluation of their military strategy. It was during this period of turmoil that a young Scipio Africanus emerged as a beacon of hope for the Romans. Born into a distinguished family, Scipio was imbued with an innate sense of leadership and an unshakable conviction in his own abilities. Scipio's rise to prominence began in Spain, where he successfully campaigned against the Carthaginian forces, honing his tactical skills and forging a loyal following among his troops. As Hannibal continued to wreak havoc in Italy, Scipio set his sights on the ultimate prize, a direct confrontation with the Carthaginian general. With the backing of the Roman Senate, Scipio sailed to Africa, determined to crush Hannibal's allies and force him to return home to defend his own territory. The Numidian king, Massinissa, had recently defected to the Roman cause, providing Scipio with a crucial ally in the region. As the Roman general disembarked on African soil, he was met with a mixture of curiosity and hostility by the local population. Undaunted, Scipio began to assemble his forces, carefully selecting a site for the impending battle. Meanwhile, Hannibal had been recalled from Italy, his plans for conquest foiled by the relentless pressure exerted by the Roman legions. As he sailed back to Carthage, he was aware that the fate of his city, and indeed the future of the Punic Wars, hung precariously in the balance. The two generals, each driven by an unyielding sense of purpose, were now on a collision course, their armies converging on the dusty plains of Zama. As the two armies converged on the plains of Zama, the air was electric with tension. The Roman general Scipio Africanus, aware of Hannibal's reputation for cunning and adaptability, had chosen a site that would negate the Carthaginians' advantage in cavalry. The terrain, flat and open, would allow the Roman legions to deploy in their traditional triplex acies formation, with the hastati in the front, the principes in the middle, and the triarii in the rear. This formation, perfected over centuries of warfare, would provide a formidable wall of shields against which Hannibal's elephants and infantry would crash. On the morning of October 19, 222 BC, the two armies faced each other, their lines stretching across the plain like giant serpents. Hannibal, ever the master strategist, had arrayed his forces in an unorthodox manner, with his weakest troops, the Carthaginian levies, in the front line, and his strongest, the veteran infantry from Italy, in the rear. His elephants, those fearsome beasts that had terrorized the Roman legions at Cannae, were positioned on the flanks, ready to charge into the fray. As the battle commenced, the Carthaginian war cry echoed across the plain, a chilling sound that sent shivers down the spines of even the most seasoned Roman veterans. The Roman legions, however, stood firm, their shields locked in a wall of steel that seemed impenetrable. The elephants, goaded by their drivers, charged forward with a deafening trumpet, but the Romans were ready for them. With a clever tactic, Scipio had instructed his troops to open lanes between their units, allowing the elephants to pass through without causing undue harm. As the beasts thundered past, The Roman soldiers closed in behind them, attacking the Carthaginian infantry from the sides and rear. Meanwhile, Hannibal's veteran troops, who had been held back in reserve, began to advance, their movements slow and deliberate. These were the men who had fought at Cannae, at Trebia, and at Trasimene, and they knew every trick in the book. But Scipio was no novice either, and he had anticipated this move. With a swift gesture, he ordered his principes to advance, their swords flashing in the sunlight as they clashed with Hannibal's veterans. The battle raged on for hours, the outcome hanging precariously in the balance. The Roman legions, however, seemed to be gaining the upper hand, their discipline and training telling against the more disorganized Carthaginian forces. As the sun began to set over the plain, casting a golden glow over the carnage, it became clear that the tide of the battle was turning in favor of the Romans. In the midst of this chaos, a remarkable scene unfolded. A group of Roman soldiers, led by a young tribune named Laelius, found themselves face to face with Hannibal himself. The Carthaginian general, his eyes blazing with fury, charged forward on horseback, his sword flashing in the sunlight. But Laelius and his men stood firm, their shields locked in a tight circle as they surrounded the great general. For a moment, it seemed as though Hannibal would be captured or killed, but he managed to extricate himself, leaving behind a trail of dead and wounded Romans. As night began to fall over the plain, the battle finally subsided, the survivors stumbling back to their camps in exhaustion. The Carthaginians had suffered a crushing defeat, with estimates suggesting that over 20,000 of their soldiers had been killed or captured. Hannibal himself had escaped, but his reputation as invincible had been shattered. The Romans, on the other hand, had emerged victorious, their discipline and training proving superior to the cunning and adaptability of their opponents. As the dust settled on the plain of Zama, the Romans began to consolidate their victory, tending to their wounded and burying their dead. The Carthaginians, meanwhile, were forced to confront the reality of their defeat, with Hannibal himself fleeing to the port city of Hadramavum, where he would eventually sail back to Carthage to face the music. The Roman commander, Scipio Africanus, was hailed as a hero, his name etched into the annals of history alongside the greatest generals of all time. In the words of the Roman historian Polybius, Scipio's victory at Zama was not only a triumph over Hannibal, but also a testament to the superiority of Roman discipline and training. The aftermath of the battle saw the Carthaginians forced to sue for peace, with the Romans imposing harsh terms on their defeated foes. The Treaty of Peace, signed in 2001 BC, imposed severe penalties on Carthage, including a massive indemnity, the loss of its overseas territories, and a significant reduction in its military capabilities. Hannibal himself was eventually exiled from Carthage, forced to flee to the court of King Antiochus III of Syria, where he would continue to plot and scheme against his Roman enemies. Despite his eventual defeat, Hannibal's legacy endured, with his tactics and strategies studied by military commanders for centuries to come. The Battle of Zama itself became a turning point in world history, marking the beginning of Roman dominance over the Mediterranean and paving the way for the rise of the Roman Empire. As the historian Edward Gibbon would later write, the victory of Zama was the decisive event which determined the fate of the ancient world. Today, the Battle of Zama is remembered as one of the greatest military victories in history, a testament to the power of discipline, training, and strategic thinking on the battlefield. The site of the battle itself has been lost to the sands of time, but its legacy lives on in the annals of history, inspiring generations of historians, strategists, and enthusiasts alike. The Battle of Zama may have been fought over 2 millennia ago, but its impact can still be felt today. It serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of strategic thinking, adaptability, and determination on the battlefield, as well as the enduring legacy of the Roman Empire, which continues to shape our modern world. That's all for today's History with Herodotus. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, remember that to understand the present, we must first understand the past.